So officially, in February 2022, my R2 build project will hit its 2-year milestone. That's a lot longer than a lot of people take in building something like this. For me, I really enjoy the process. I'm kind of a stickler for quality and finish. So that's part of the reason it's taken this long. But it's actually really even taken longer because like most 3D printers and like most 3D printed droid builders, I didn't start with an R2. I think very few people start with an R2. Usually you start 3D printing with smaller stuff and it builds into a hobby. And if you enjoy the hobby enough and care to take on bigger and bigger challenges, you might end up with something like an R2-D2. So where did I start? I've had a few people ask me questions about what got me into this and stuff. And like a lot of droid builders, I'm a big fan of movies. And so when 3D printing sort of became a thing, I kind of gravitated toward film and movie props. And I thought I'd show a few of the things that I started out with. So these actually represent some of the first things that I 3D printed, as well as some of the more recent things that I 3D printed. The lightsaber was one of the very first things that I 3D printed. I printed this. My work actually had a 3D printer, and that was what introduced me into 3D printing. This was a Thingiverse file. I might include some links down below. I don't know if these models even still are out there, or there's probably better ones out there. But this one really kind of taught me the ins and outs of part orientation and a little bit about finishing. I really liked how the flat black on the handle really gave it the sort of rubbery look. And then the chrome accents. The chrome paint took literally weeks to cure. There were a lot of times where I would think it was dry and I would pick it up and I would leave fingerprints. And it was really, really bad. But that was a fun thing to sort of cut my teeth on. After that, I actually moved on to my Indiana Jones idol. And this was the first time that I used something like Mesh Mixer to slice a piece or a model myself. I actually ended up slicing this into 3 parts so that I could print it entirely without supports. And then glued it together and did an okay job hiding the seam. Not perfect. And it took a lot of gold paint. I didn't really do a very good job of removing the layer lines and doing a lot of the finishing work on here. So I just made up for it by laying the paint on really thick. And it worked in most places. So this thermal detonator here was my first foray into Arduino programming and electronics. This was also a free file from Thingiverse that I downloaded. It's only a couple of parts to print, the top half, the bottom half, and the switch. Inside here I have an Arduino Nano, a little MP3 board that I've bought off of eBay, a little 1-inch speaker, and some LEDs and switches, so that when you flip the trigger back, so the lights there blink in a random pattern. It plays the audio until you shut it down. It plays the close sound. Let me show you a little bit about what's inside this. So I had to add the power switch. Turn that off. Inside here, you'll see there's a little leaf switch up at the top that gets triggered when the slide is pushed back. In fact, I can turn that on. So that triggers everything there. The Nano is in here, and this has the little sketch that I wrote that essentially plays audio files and makes the LEDs blink. I've got a little 4 battery pack in here. These LEDs are always coming loose. And then right in the back there, you can see there's a little 1-inch speaker, and it's basically attached to an MP3 board that has some sound files loaded on there. And that's pretty much it. It was a challenge packing all this stuff in there. But in the end, it actually works pretty well. So this was sort of my first foray into this kind of stuff, and it was kind of cool to make my own toy. Mjolnir here is one of the more recent things that I kind of took a little bit of a diversion from R2-D2 to print and build. These files I got from a gentleman's Etsy shop. He does a lot of 3D modeling, and he's got a number of models for various MCU items, another one of which I have in progress behind me. But this is a really beefy model. It has a 3/4 inch dowel running all the way from the pommel through the head, so it's nice and strong. The head itself used probably about 3/4 to almost a full roll of filament to print. And then I even added a leather strap, although I think it's a little bit too long. I need to shorten it by about 4 or 5 inches. But this one here allowed me to sort of experiment with some acrylic wash and some weathering. We'll probably eventually want to weather R2, so I wanted something to sort of try that out on and give it a little bit of practice. I'm really happy with the finish. The silver paint, of course, lost its metallic luster once I put a clear coat on it, but I was okay with that. I didn't really want Mjolnir to be chrome or too reflective, too shiny. I really wanted to be able to dirty it up a little bit, which I think the weathering here is just subtle enough to be about where I wanted it. So that's really good. And the project that I have going on behind me is the companion. Stormbreaker is another beefy son of a gun. It's about 4 feet long, and it's got it has some 3/8 inch steel rod running all the way through the handle, and a couple pieces across the top of the head as well. So I've just been sanding and priming this the first time and working on hiding some of the seams in the handle. So this is going to have a little bit more, well, a lot more work required to finish it up, but I found that it's really kind of a nice distraction from R2. R2 doesn't really have any more parts that need to be 3D printed. So, you know, I kind of see my printer sitting there idle and figure I should find something to print while I waited for the weather to get good. So, which we did get this weekend. So finally got some painting done for R2, and hopefully we'll see some more progress on him in the future. So anyway, I hope this video is kind of helpful for people that are considering getting started in 3D printing. It's become a really fun hobby for me. I've really enjoyed what I've done. It's been a lot of fun. Even my family really kind of gets a kick out of it. So I've been able to put my movie props on display in our basement home theater, and it just makes it a little bit more fun. And yeah, so anyway, hope everyone's doing well, and I'll talk to you soon.